Center meeting here in Mason, Michigan, and I'm going to go put this microphone on something and put it up there.
I know.
I'm a bulldog tonight. I'm a bulldog. Oh, sorry.
There's some extra seats up here. You guys want to come up this way? Plenty right here and there. Couple here.
I know, I remember. Who said that?
Three, four right there.
I'd like to call to order the Mason City Council meeting for February 2nd, 2026. Could we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Whipple,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Drosha,
Here.
Councilmember Ferris.
Here.
Councilmember Husby.
Here.
Councilmember Predmore.
Here.
Councilmember Schaefer.
I'm here.
Councilmember Bircher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I'm sorry, which one? Just a minute.
Oh.
All right, if you would all please rise for the pledge of allegiance and invocation led by Councilmember Frick.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we gather here today with gratitude for the opportunity to come together. We ask for your guidance and wisdom as we engage in discussions that impact our community. Help us listen to one another with open hearts and minds. In your name we pray, amen.
Amen.
So it's now time for public comment, as we've been doing for the last few weeks. We've got a sign-in sheet back there. If you want to be called up to speak as a priority, we ask you to sign that and get your name on it. I'm going to call up the next person speaking, and then I'll call who's on deck and give the addresses. I think it's Marcus Baldori, 2267 Mount Hope Road. What city is that? Okemos. And then on deck is Doug DeLay. We'll give you 3 minutes.
Thank you. I should be quick then. My name is Marcus Baldori. I'm representing Mason Data Center Facts. Heard many of the residents' concerns. I think most people want this ordinance to be protective. I've heard that from the city council as well. But what is protective? For example, there's a real policy debate as to whether data centers should be used by right versus special use permit. I think a protective measure would be special use permit. There's also other considerations like height, noise thresholds, operational standards. These are core zoning questions, and many think that the current ordinance is not protective enough. I've heard it repeated that without Ordinance 266, a data center could simply move forward under M2 or as an unclassified use. After looking at Michigan zoning law, I don't think that this is entirely accurate. Data centers are not listed in M1 or M2. They don't fit plainly within the language of those districts. An unlisted use becomes a discretionary determination, which is governed by Michigan law. That process is not automatic. In practice, that leads to a special use permit, which requires public notice and hearing, clear and convincing evidence, and it allows the cities to impose different conditions. If there's a different legal pathway under which a data center could proceed under M2 or an unclassified use, I think the public should hear that step by step, clearly and precisely, not as a generalized warning to justify rushing in an ordinance right now. That's not something that residents seem comfortable with. For that reason, I think a 6 month to a year moratorium is totally appropriate. It allows the city to consider more protective measures, and a lot of them have already been suggested, and I know a lot of people will talk about what those might be later on. If the ordinance is adopted, we're prepared to proceed with a referendum petition. It's been submitted already. A draft has been submitted to the city and the city attorney for review. I've got a copy right here. We'd aim to collect 1,000 signatures or more. And I think based on public engagement, that appears to be very realistic. Section 7.12 of the city charter says we need approval as to form by the city attorney before circulating for signature. We've submitted to the city attorney. Now there's some question, well, I can't approve it before it's adopted. And I understand that, but if it's adopted tonight, well, that's my first call in the morning, and it should take an hour to review because it's one page with a few sentences. So this won't take long. It shouldn't take long. And, but really, I think just taking more time, there's really no reason to rush this. And again, slowing it down is totally appropriate. There's a lot of ways to make this more protective. And again, I go back to the first example I said, special use permit as opposed to use by right. And again, if there are ways for the a developer can be very creative. I understand that, but we should identify exactly, if we don't adopt an ordinance, what exactly is that process? Because from my standpoint, I don't think that's a straightforward process whatsoever. And the burden should be not on us to explain that process, but on the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn, 3275 West Howell Road in Mason, and next up is Kevin Lowe.
Thank you. I think we should reflect a little bit on the quality of life in Mason that we all enjoy. We have the oldest soft ice cream server in the greater Lansing area. Thank you, John. We have a Ware's Pharmacy, which is a family-owned pharmacy, which is going to celebrate its 90th year this year. We have the fairgrounds. We have an incredible school system and the best teachers around. We have a magical library, and we have a courthouse that Hugh Jackman came to be filmed at. And we have the Thursday night summer sing-alongs or music. We have Bad Brewing, which is the best beer in the state. We have El Dorado, a 27-hole golf course. City limits, a functioning bowling alley, which is pretty unique for the greater Lansing area. We have the Hayaho Trail. We have the Dart Cups and the Dart Cup Museum. 2 hardware stores, Bestsellers, the only bookstore I know where you can get a highball. Swallowtail Farm, their Happy Hollow, Wild Type, a naturalizing nursery, and Sun-Dried Tomato Festival, a parade for every national holiday, and Witches on a Town Day. If we're going to have somebody in town that has $3 trillion, I want to make sure that they abide by some rules. And these are the rules that I put forward that they need to abide by to keep our quality of life the same. The sound decibel level should be 20. I don't want to ever hear what they're doing. We should only use local contractors if this is going to be built, because we know the local contractors are honest and they're among us. Employees must live in Mason, and we want no miniature nuclear power plants in Mason. That sounds stupid, but that's the next level to increase their energy level to be able to deal with the energy demand of these companies. Emergency generators have to be buried underground, and they cannot be allowed to have a sound level above 20 decibels. They must pay for the water at the same level that everybody in Mason pays for it. And they need to put down a damage deposit on the property of 10%. And if they default and if the business goes out, the city of Mason automatically maintains possession of the property. Because this building is going to end up in our hands in 10 years, there's got to be at least 4 bathrooms on every floor level. And there should be no more than 3 stories to any of the buildings. Thank you.
Kevin Lovell, 1700 West Howell Road, Mason, and next up is Kathy, is it Baud? I can't really read it, so Baird, okay, Kathy Baird.
The past several meetings, you stated you were upset with the lack of respect. You are not entitled to respect. You have to earn it. There are many examples of your actions that have eroded the trust and respect by the voters. I only have time to talk about a few of them. Several police chiefs and recently a police sergeant quit over internal politics with the city and the way they were treated. You showed them no respect. You tried to sell Bond Park. The town rallied against you to save the park. You decided to pause the sale to modify your master plan to move the property outside of the master plan. That sounded innocent until you looked at the ramifications. The parks are protected in the master plan, so they cannot be sold without a vote of the people. By moving the parks out of the master plan, all of the parks could have been sold without a single vote by the community. Talk about lack of respect to the community. Basically, you raised your middle finger at all of us. Fortunately, you were caught and stopped. Your actions were arrogant, manipulative, deceptive, and poor judgment. This was not looking out for the best interests of Mason. The mega data centers, the first two meetings, no one knew about it. The third meeting, you stated no one cared because no one was at the first two meetings. People asked, how were we supposed to know about the meeting? Deborah Stewart stated legally, all she had to do was publish the meeting. She published the meeting in the Lansing State Journal. No one reads the Journal, that's why you published it there. That was deceptive. It's 3.5 hour long planning meeting. The committee voted no to proceed because they did not have enough information. You took a break, everyone left. After everyone left, you bullied, pushed around the planning commission members and had them change the vote from no to yes. The optics looked terrible. That is when Maggie Wren quit. The next meeting, any council member who disagreed or had a different view than you, you bullied them, disrespected them, and berated them. That was unbecoming of a mayor and city manager. That is when Leon Clark quit. Another person well respected in the community quit. What is the common denominator? Multiple police chiefs, recent police sergeant, multiple planning commission members, DDA members, and city council members all quit. The common denominator is the mayor and city manager. I can only imagine how you treat other people behind closed doors. On top of all this, there's a $200,000 judgment against the city. With all this BS, you passed yourself an exorbitant raise, $44,000 a year increase. The Detroit city manager makes $114,000 a year. Grand Rapids city manager makes $111,000 a year. If you combine both Grand Rapids and Detroit city managers' salaries together, the city manager makes 84% of their salaries combined. Let me remind you that you were elected to represent the voters and voters' interest over your own interest. If you want respect, then respect others. If you do not want people to question your judgment, then use better judgment. Once you
And next up, Pam Oliver.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, and all of Mason. I am here to introduce you to the faces of our group, Mason Data Center Facts. I took responsibility for the group name, but I am not alone. Priscilla Hart and I are a team, and we are joined by Pam Oliver, who is our volunteer coordinator, and my son, Brandon Baird, who is a creator and administrator of our fantastic and very informative website. Our amazing attorney, Marcus Baldori from Baldori Law, is already fighting for the City of Mason residents. Mr. Mayor, we are not hiding as you have falsely suggested. In case you hadn't noticed, we've been a little busy. We only had 4 days to organize, create an informational postcard, an extremely informational website, print and hand deliver them within 5 days in order to combat the misleading postcard that you mailed on the taxpayer dime. We felt like the post office. Nothing stopped us, not wind, below zero wind chills every day, or snow. Our small, determined, and dedicated group of 10 volunteers walked the city streets from west to east and north to south for 5 days in sub-freezing temps in order to get the facts out to the public so they could decide the truth for themselves. Mason, y'all probably recognize our faces from your Ring cameras. We enjoyed seeing your beautiful homes, cute yard signs, and chatting with many of you. We tried to place a postcard on everyone's door, but I'm sure we probably missed some and placed 2 on others. Please forgive us. It was very cold and we were walking fast. I'm originally from Houston, Texas. In the mid-'80s, I got married and moved to the Lansing area. My husband has always called me a Texas firecracker due to the fact that I stand up for what is right. I'm typically non-confrontational, but I don't take BS from anyone and won't back down to a bully. You may have heard of our famous Texas saying, "Don't mess with Texas." Well, Mr. Mayor, we're going to borrow that and tell you loud and clear, don't mess with Mason. We have an army of volunteers watching everything you and your council members do and say. Our website presents factual information, fact-checked and attorney-approved, and gives Mason residents the tools they need to make informed decisions. We will not give up. Priscilla, Pam, Brandon, and I will not allow you to bully the people of Mason by ignoring their pleas to slow down the M3 ordinance train. If you continue to roll on down the track and vote yes on your mess of an M3 ordinance, then our attorney, Marcus Baldori, will be forced to file the referendum petition on our behalf and put it up to the vote to the people of Mason, for the people of Mason. You can still stop the train in its tracks by creating at least a 6-month moratorium on a data center construction to give the time needed to help you determine what is best for Mason. City of Mason residents and all those bordering townships, Mason Data Center Facts is here to fight for you. We have retained the services of Baldori Law for the purpose of protecting the residents of the City of Mason and to do what is best for the City of Mason. Please check masondatacenterfacts.org frequently. Marcus will be filing a referendum petition on behalf of our group if City Council votes yes on this tonight on this proposed M3 ordinance. Once the referendum petition is filed, we will need to gather signatures from the registered voters within the City of Mason boundaries. Pay close attention to our website in the coming days and weeks. We are self-funded and accepting donations.
Next up is Paula Culver.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to speak to each of the council members who are planning to vote yes tonight on this ordinance. I want to implore you to decide for yourselves how to vote on this ordinance instead of voting in lockstep with the mayor. It isn't too late to fix this. Mayor Whipple has convinced all of you that he is protecting Mason. This is not protection for Mason when you allow a use by right. It is an open invitation for the data center developers to do what they want without oversight of the city. By voting yes on this ordinance, you are opening yourselves up to lawsuits from city residents. You have completely ignored the pleas from the people of Mason. Before you vote yes, ask yourself the following questions. 1, do you want to be responsible for ruining the charming rural character of the City of Mason? Please visualize a 70-foot concrete building on a large parcel of land just outside of Mason with 24/7 lights and 55+ decibel sound, surrounded by large substations, generators, security fencing, etc. Picture yourself at the end of the driveway across the road. These buildings are not pretty, no matter the berm, trees, and split rail fence is going to hide this from neighborhoods and farm homes that are directly next door and across the street a mere 200 feet away. Try understanding how this impacts the people of Mason rather than just your view. 2, are you an expert on impacts caused by hyperscale data center development? If the answer is no, then why are you voting yes when all of the experts haven't weighed in yet? Why don't you vote for a moratorium so the facts can be gathered before it becomes law? 3, are you ready to be known as the pariah of town? People will remember what you did. You are the one who wouldn't stand up to the mayor. Why didn't you listen to the citizens' concerns? There are too many unanswered questions to proceed. Once you vote yes, you can't go back. 4, are you representing the concerns of the people who voted for you? 5, do you want Mason to become an industrial mecca or data center alley? Once one is built, they will expand, especially on a 50-acre minimum parcel. 6, why are you voting for the City of Mason to add an industrial zoning district? It does not follow the master plan. It is your duty to follow the master plan. 7, do Mason residents want to exchange farmland, agricultural businesses for large industrial zoning that can accommodate hyperscale data center development? Not according to the public comments and most importantly, the City of Mason master plan. 8, do the residents of Mason want a new large industrial zoning district which allows hyperscale data centers to be built? No, the residents have clearly stated that they do not want to add more intensive industrial zoning districts to the city. This point is made clear in the master plan for the City of Mason, which both DeRocha and Predmore reviewed and adopted in 2023. I urge you to have your own opinion and to vote your conscience. If your vote would change because this was in your front yard, then vote no, or better yet, vote yes for a 180-day to a 1-year moratorium on data center construction. You will be a hero in our town instead of the pariah. Choose to be a hero, please.
And next up is Alyssa Day.
Can I give you guys questions? Am I allowed to?
give these to you?
Hand them to,
Oh, okay.
pass them out.
These are just questions on the ordinance. Hello, so I have questions tonight. I want to know on your ordinance, I want to know why there's no caps on the water and the power usage, why there is no guarantee that the developers will pay 100% of the required grid and water upgrades. Why is there no decommissioning bond or mandated cleanup plan? Why is there no fire department approved emergency hazmat plan? Why does the noise rule allow matching existing levels instead of 85 decibel cap? Why are waivers still allowed to protect allowed protective setbacks? Why are there is there no compensation for residents whose property values will decrease? Why doesn't the ordinance have state law in it? And why is the language open to interpretation? Why is hazardous material storage allowed with only notice to the city and no financial bond or approved emergency plan? Why is there no fire and safety language addressing the risks like hacking and cooling system failures that can cause fires? Why does the ordinance lack clear protections for health, safety, water, and environment and Mason's future growth? And I also want to address in your question and answer, you cited experts and Ohio references. Who are they? Which town are they from? And why can't we review the reports, data, and invoices that you put together? You have no references. Why was this water study done by Wolverine Engineering without an aquifer expertise instead of Williams and Works? Why contract through Wolverine and waste taxpayer dollars and bypass council oversight and have Deb do it herself with no oversight? What are you hiding? The Wolverine memo states that only 200,000 gallons of water per day in excess capacity exists. Will there be additional water required? And where will it come from? How will the water usage from the data centers and surrounding areas affect the aquifer that we all share? Do you have safeguards for Mason's water supply? And why are there no safeguards for personal wells that could go dry or testing to make sure there's no harmful contamination to poison your people in Mason? Where is the binding clause ensuring developers will pay 100% of the required updates? What is the purpose of the public portal with over 1,000 pages? How could you all possibly come together and read those? What was the point? And where are the public suggestions in the ordinance? You did not listen or read it. And lastly, the ordinance is clearly in favor of data centers without protections the residents. The core issues are who pays for the infrastructure, who takes the risks of the water shortage and contamination, and who cleans up afterwards. Why is the ordinance so reckless and legally vulnerable? Because you will be sued. You will be sued if you are not putting those in there. And I care for some of you a lot, and I don't want to see that happen. But we'll recall you and we'll unseat you, and you'll be out.
And next up is Candace Metcalf.
Good evening. The city's closing date for receiving comments was 4 p.m. on January 20th. That is only 8 business days to review, evaluate, and receive a legal opinion for the 100 plus comments that were received. This does not demonstrate a good faith effort to truly review citizens' concerns or to produce an effective, protective, and legally defensive ordinance. The process is being clearly rushed. Case in point, the city was prepared to approve the ordinance on December 15th. After considerable public pushback, the city extended the public comment period. In that time, the city has realized that a 300-acre minimum could constitute exclusionary zoning, meaning the city planned to approve an ordinance with unlawful provisions that likely would have caused legal issues for the city. This is only one example that shows mistakes are being made, the ordinance is not complete, and it has not received proper legal review. Citizens have proposed numerous other protective measures. The city has provided zero legal analysis by a licensed attorney to explain why these protective measures have been rejected. Specifically, a multitude of citizens, the majority of which that live in the city, requested a special use permit. In its frequently asked questions, the city cites, quote unquote, a broader planning trend as the reason for rejecting the requirement for a special use permit. However, this explanation is ambiguous and provides no real world support. In fact, a multitude of municipalities and townships require a special use permit, including 2 Virginia counties that are known as Data Center Alley. Notably, Loudoun County, Virginia, one of the counties in Data Center Alley, had allowed use by right, just like this ordinance. Last year, Loudoun County amended their ordinance to require a special use permit after many repeated citizen complaints about inappropriate siting of data centers next to residential areas, noise problems, strain on the electrical grid, and other complaints. The city of Mason should not wait until this facility is inappropriately sited to realize that the ordinance should require a special use permit. The city states that it's including a public hearing at the site plan stage to purportedly address public requests for a special use permit. However, this eliminates the public's ability to question and evaluate the proposed location of the development before the site plan process. To emphasize this once again, a multitude of citizens have requested a special use permit. The city has not addressed this request and has failed to provide a legal rationale from a licensed attorney for why it cannot provide or require a special use permit. The city needs to extend the moratorium for a minimum of 6 months, perform a more in-depth review of community proposals, and provide a detailed proof that a licensed attorney has reviewed and evaluated the community's specific proposals for the ordinance. Thank you.
Candace Metcalf, 3470 Josephine Lane, and Mason, and then Megan Short.
I waived my turn, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Megan Short, 3755 West Hall Road, and next up is Ann Stewart.
The ordinance proposed today to allow a data center as a use by right in our community is reckless. You have repeatedly cited the Urban Land Institute as justification. That handbook is explicit about the purpose of the use by right approach. It states, when data centers are cited clearly as by right use, data center developers are more likely to consider the location for investment because they have required certainty that the land they acquire won't struggle or be delayed in the approval process. This is precisely what this ordinance accomplishes. Use by right is the welcome mat, and Russ, you know that. We have consistently asked that data centers be treated as special use, so the city retains meaningful discretion, site-specific review authority, and enforceable conditions. You have refused this request at every revision. That is inexcusable. These facilities bring with them the potential for hundreds of semi-sized diesel generators emitting fine particulate matter that is conclusively linked to serious health conditions, including asthma and cancer. This is not a matter of opinion or something to dismiss with a laugh. It is established science. You have failed to adequately define emergency use for these generators. As written, the term is dangerously vague and creates an obvious loophole, one that has been exploited in other communities. What constitutes an emergency and who decides? Families in this community do not consent, I do not consent, to repeated diesel exposure for grid stabilization, demand response, peak shaving, load balancing, or any activity unrelated to a true outage emergency. In addition, this ordinance does not provide adequate setbacks. Hyperscale data centers are campuses. They're unique and enormous and loud. No community should accept hundreds of acres of 24/7 industrial operations located far less than a football field length away from where their children sleep and play. That is not responsible land use planning. We must learn from other communities' mistakes. You have the authority to codify real enforceable mitigations. You have chosen not to. That choice tracks closely with another statement from the Urban Land Institute Guide. While mitigations are effective, it says, it's important not to codify excessively specific or restrictive design standards into zoning codes, as doing so can discourage data center development. You have chosen not to do that. The guide is clear about its purpose. It is a roadmap to attract data center development, and you are following it. You have repeatedly suggested a developer could pursue a data center under M2 zoning as a warehouse. Attorneys we've consulted have confirmed that attempting to shoehorn a hyperscale data center into M2 would be highly vulnerable to legal challenge, and if attempted, would be subject to referendum as well. If this ordinance is adopted tonight, I fully support a referendum. While I do support having an ordinance that is genuinely protective of the health, safety, property values, and quality of life in this community, this ordinance as written isn't it.
Andy Stewart, 663 Rolfe Road, Mason, and next up is Jack Carmichael.
Mr. Mayor, you have encouraged the community to submit concrete suggestions to the council for inclusion into Ordinance 266. Meeting after meeting, citizens have done that, presented fact-based, experience-based guidance, recommendations, suggestions, and solutions. We have yet to hear all but a pitiful few brought up for council discussion. Again and again, your constituents and other concerned citizens have risen to your challenge and the urgency of the matter. Yet Ordinance 266 remains woefully similar to its initial skeletal draft. Why do you continue to so stubbornly and summarily dismiss our input? The suggestions, research, and studies I and others have offered are sound and they are vital. Your unyielding and steady refusal to fully protect our community is staggering. It presumes superior knowledge over U.S. government agencies, scholarly reports, and experience-based recommendations. What hubris! After you leave office, Mr. Mayor, you will be remembered not for stewardship, but for betrayal, for bartering away our town's future in favor and service of a fiercely divisive corporate data center. You and your council are ramming through an ordinance stripped of due diligence, stripped of best practices, and stripped of even the pretense of responsible governance. You expect us to accept that environmental review, aquifer safeguards, meaningful noise limits, and utility impact studies are trivial details that can be addressed later. Your recklessness will scar our landscape, gut small businesses, drag down home and land values, and burden residents with rising utility costs while corporate profits surge. Your years of service, Mr. Mayor, will collapse into one ruinous legacy, a once quiet farming community recast as an industrial utility drain. History will not preserve your accomplishments. No. It will remember the moment you traded our water, our resources, our peace, and our property for irreversible and catastrophic short-lived gain. That will be your legacy, sir, and our community will shoulder the consequences long after you've walked away from the damage you so arrogantly created.
Jack Carmichael, 519 South Rogers Street, and next up, James Kenyon.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. I've given away all my handouts. I can't give you the one that has the phone number for you to call down Ann Arbor to get proper treatment for your dad. I'm sorry. But maybe someone in the audience will give you the pass out, or you can give me a ring, okay? I know right where your dad should go. Friends, I know a lot of you know me, and you know I oppose the data center. By show of hands, I'd like to see how many in the audience are favoring the data center. If you favor the data center, please hold up your hand or stand. Let yourself be recognized.
Why didn't you guys raise your hand?
Not a soul. Not a soul. I'm sorry. I've spoken before the council several times. Every time I've said I oppose the data center, and I've told my reasons in English. They don't seem to have made any difference. So I wrote a proposal for the evening with different languages. I thought if nothing else, might make a little difference in whether you listen or not. My wife said, boy, I don't know about this. You better check with somebody on that. So I called a friend of mine. I gave her my pitch. She said, I don't know Amharic. Amharic is the language they speak in Ethiopia. Tenestele, Andamanana. That just means hello, how are you? Nice to see you this evening. Then I said a little something in Russian. In Russian, I said, Добрый день. Я слушаю. Правда. That just means good evening. I'm listening to you. And I hope you listen to me. And finally, I said a few words in Arabic. Allah Akbar.
That's just a different way of saying we believe in God. It's a different language. It's Arabic. They believe in the same God we do. So I've developed a little story, a parable from the Old Testament about Joshua. I was going to address it to DeRoche, but I see he's been promoted. Joshua, who fit the battle of it. Joshua fit the battle of. What was the battle? What was the battle that he fought? He fought. He fought. He fought. And people sometimes didn't even know what battle he was fighting. He wasn't fighting against data center. He wasn't fighting against the data centers I'm fighting now. And I said that to my friend, the lady. She said, "Bonne chance." That's French. It means good luck. I said, "Thank you, Governor. Thanks for the nice letter you sent me on my birthday. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night."
The red light went off on the bottom.
All right.
So you think I can speak loud enough without a mic? Is that the issue?
Hold on. Well, it's for the video that.
I got you.
I have copies of Mr. Carmichael's letter to be given to the individuals here.
I think you're working.
Thank you for adjusting that for my height challenged individual. James Kenyon.
Okay, James Kenyon, 17 Steel Street.
That
Next up
would
is
be
Tom
me.
Emmerich.
Thank you. And I moved to Mason to enjoy the town and its Mayberry RFD atmosphere, and hate to see something like that changed. Most of my issues have already been addressed. I do have issues as far as the Michigan Legislative Analysis had said that this is going to reduce taxes and basically affect both state and local revenue, at least by $2.5 million a year. I agree with the issues on the sound ordinance, and I think 85 decibels, if it's continued, is still way too high. So there needs to be something to address that. There also needs to be something in the ordinance having a set aside, because so many companies come in, start a build and leave or declare bankruptcy, and we're left with a cleanup for that. And we need to have something in the ordinance addressing that so that we're not assessed with some large sum of money just for cleanup of damage they've already committed. And in regards to the issue in regards to water, I believe the city has made a statement that no data demonstrates the center's discharge water would have contaminants exceeding what our treatment facility could handle. And yet, do we have any adequate information to address the amount of contaminants that would be left after they've used everything, concentrated the water, and shipped it back to our waste management? So basically, that is all I have to say.
Tom Emmerich, 106 East South Street, and next up is Susan Elliott.
Why the rush to pass this ordinance? Benefits. Council justifications appear to be industry talking points, personal opinions, half-truths, or superficial internet searches. Resident concerns. Polluted aquifers, sinkholes, dry wells, negative impacts on air, water, and soil quality, noise pollution, endless lawsuits and fees, increased energy, water, and sewer costs, increased power grid outages, Oneida Seabeam Lake Transmission Line project, solar farms on data center premises. Data center proximity will result in lower property valuations, reduce new housing development, reduce new business development, reduce tourism, reduce business income, increase city, county, and school taxes to offset lower property valuations and loss of business income, special firefighting equipment for data centers, decommissioning costs, unrestricted data center growth. Council took a private research road trip to New Albany, Ohio, a major tech hotspot with over 40 data centers. Last year, Detroit Edison took Howell Township and Mason area officials on a bus tour to the same New Albany, Ohio, to provide information on hyperscale data centers. Howell Township officials immediately imposed a 6-month moratorium and withdrew the data center project's rezoning request. Our council immediately embraced the idea to mimic New Albany, Ohio, as a premier Midwest tech center. Mason should follow Howell's example and delay a decision until all of the facts are known and considered. Many U.S. municipalities considering hyper data centers frequently impose moratoriums of up to 2 years and hold public forums to discuss the facts. Why not Mason? Why the rush to pass this ordinance? Council reported on Celine's attempt to delay the building of a new data center. They were sued and lost in court. Council failed to mention the corporation financing the data center backed out of the deal in response to local community opposition. The project is now in jeopardy. Council insists the M3 ordinance is critical to prevent developers from forcing data centers on us. Council failed to mention the wording of our new ordinance is based on New Albany, Ohio's ordinance, designed to recruit new data centers. Council failed to mention the new data center cannot be built here without modifying Mason's ordinances. Let me be clear. Once council passes this ordinance, theoretically, there is no stopping any developer from purchasing property in the adjoining townships and building more data centers. New Albany, Ohio is not the example you want to follow. Mason needs to create an ordinance based on our specific values, not terms tailored only to recruit data centers. Once you let the genie out of the bottle, you can never put it back in. Mason citizens overwhelmingly oppose the new ordinance. Council, please have the courage to stand up and do what is right for your family, friends, and fellow citizens. Vote no on this ordinance. Vote yes on at least a 1-year moratorium. Vote yes on public meetings so together we can study the facts and make reasonable decisions to benefit us all. Condolences to my fellow Mason and Township residences for the misery about to be inflicted upon you by this council's short-sighted get-rich scheme. Thank you.
Susan Elliott, 3731 Josephine Lane, and next up is Sean Simon.
On December 20th, in the mayor's interview on social media, he stated that data centers don't create nitrates. And you know what? The mayor was right. I bet you never thought I would say that. Data centers don't produce nitrates. But as is so often the case, you didn't tell the whole story. Nitrates are in the soil, and they were in the soil. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back. Despite your anecdote and the city's website claiming that nitrates were only an issue in one town in Oregon, these statements are misleading as they imply that there would be no similar concerns here. But listen to the contributing factors out in Oregon. Agricultural land is often higher in nitrates than other areas, although not at dangerous levels. Nitrates get in the soil from fertilizers and manure, as well as industrial runoff. The fertilizers and manure contribute to the agricultural nitrate levels as one would expect. But then in Oregon, the data centers got built. Data centers consume large amounts of water for cooling purposes, often pulling from the local aquifer and municipal water sources. If the source water already contains nitrates, which it would in an agricultural area, the recirculation and evaporation of this water in cooling systems increases the concentration of those nitrates. This concentration effect occurs because the water evaporates during cooling, leaving the dissolved nitrates behind. When this water is discharged into the wastewater systems and returned to the environment, nitrate levels in the water supply as a whole spike, contributing to environmental and public concerns, including the very rare cancers that the mayor also tried to laugh off in that same interview. Stating that nitrates will not be an issue here is like it was in Oregon is false, as we have precisely the scenario described above. While the data center may not technically produce nitrates, the recirculation and evaporation of the cooling systems will increase the concentration. It is scientifically proven. I see no reference in a plan to deal with the increased nitrates that will result. This is completely unacceptable. Such half-truths have thrown your city's credibility in the toilet. Continuing with the issue of water, the write-up addressing the community's concerns addresses wells on your website. It states that wells going dry will be the responsibility of the homeowners because there is no legal grounds for the company to repair them. And again, that's a partial truth. The company will not be responsible because the city is who is setting their levels. So the city is who would be responsible and who would face a, a civil suit. Not that we want it. And as someone else said, it's not a threat unless you want to take it that way.
South Jefferson, and next up is Robert Kirk.
I've stood up here many times speaking about how problems as a society, it isn't our differences, but how we handle them. And how some can't seem to disagree without villainizing those who see things differently. I've also mentioned that the world isn't as black and white as we may like, and we are far too polarized to see anything in the middle that might resemble a compromise. As I was pondering this more recently, I realized that in life, it's more deceptive and complex than the black and white analogy. I think life is more like one of those illusionary sculptures that are made of layers of tubes facing different directions. The ones that from one angle you see a cat, but if you walk around 90 degrees, you see a dog. I think that applies in many aspects of life. It's all about perspective. Two people can look at the same exact sculpture and see something different depending on their angle. Here we have many concerned citizens looking at data centers through the perspective of how disruptive they can be to the communities. And on the other, you have a council that is looking at them through the eyes of legality and trying to make sure that we're protected. And even there's some disagreements. What's important about the analogy is that two things can be true at once. A sculpture can be a cat and a dog. And a data center can be something we don't want and is something that legally we might not be able to stop. When the two sides of the subject that can't agree on something, generally there's a compromise. I know the term that we seldom hear anymore. But it's paramount in a society made up of different ideals and perspectives to be able to have civil discourse. I think the ordinance is a compromise between addressing the concerns in data centers while also protecting the city from lawsuits from corporate entities that may view us as hostile and exclusionary against them. Is it perfect? Of course not. Nothing is. But the idea that the council hasn't listened to the people doesn't make sense to me when there's been many ordinances that have been added. The one gentleman even said many of his things were already addressed. He still had some more, but he said some were addressed. And the calls to do the research also doesn't make sense. You know, you want them to do research, but you don't want them to go see one in person. That makes no sense to me. I just hope people will remember that just because people do not agree on the solution to the problem, it doesn't mean that they were ill-informed or don't know what the other side is trying to say. It only means that there's more than one way to look at every situation, and it's important to remember that before speaking ill of those we disagree with.
Robert Kerr, 1601 South College Road, and next up is Leo Bear.
I'm going to take a little different approach. I'm going to give Russ Whipple the first 30 seconds here in his own words.
I've got a lot of background on it. I have gone to a data center facility. I have studied data centers. I'm an engineer by training. I understand the technology. I was an HVAC and engine cooling engineer. I understand cooling. So the whole concept of cooling with water, or I've even studied some of the other mechanisms mechanisms by which they can cool these things. Water is not the only one. It just happens to be the least expensive and easiest one most of the time, not always. So I think we're in a good place to have good knowledge, and just wish other people would try to get there as well, and then give good advice instead of just coming in and telling us how wrong we are. And I'm done.
Now, Russ, I'm no engineer. I'm just a lowly technician. We're the guys you call in when the engineers screw things up. That 15 years of data center experience supporting data centers, I guarantee you're not telling the truth there. There's no way a regular tap water is going to handle the job. So I put a grand on it. You write in the ordinance that the data center uses tap water only, no brines, no toxic chemicals. The water they use must be returned to the city for treatment as regular plain water. I guarantee it won't happen. Now, you are an engineer in the fire department. Let's remind people what good things engineers from the fire industry brought us. Asbestos, firefighting foam, also known as PFAS. Okay, I trust you got the best interest of the city at heart. Now let's take a look at something else here. The mayor's repeatedly referred to the concerns of the takings clause as to why we can't put a moratorium. That's a straw man argument, Mayor Whipple. The takings doesn't apply at this point. For the takings to apply, somebody would have to come to you and request. You've already said there's been no contact. So there's no takings until somebody buys property and requests rezoning or requests a data center. At this point, takings does not apply. I'm going to assume for a minute we're referring to Mason 133 LLC. And I would ask you to pay attention to those last three letters there. Limited Liability Corporation. That's a hidden entity that purchased 324 acres of agriculturally zoned property nestled among homes, farms, and even a horse stable in an adjoining township. It's a far stretch to claim that takings would immediately apply, since they have, to the best of my knowledge, not applied for any permits for rezoning or anything with a township. They're not requested annexation or anything.
Thank you. We are 180 Kingman Road, and next up is Patrick Lynn.
Okay, I think that I was on the right track with the data, like the build the data center before them idea. I do see how it won't make everybody happy. I do have the solution is 3 sentences that we just got to add to the ordinance. All we have to do is redefine the length of a foot and the size of an acre, and everybody will be happy. Maybe we could take it down to like a Rockenbach or Lego scale, so I can still build on the land. I mean, just an idea. People can still get their bribe money. We get to keep our city nice. Data center gets to get built. Maybe a little bit smaller than expected. It still gets built though. So, just an idea. Okay, thank you.
Patrick Lynn, 22 Diamond Road, and next up would be Genevieve Peters Scott.
Good evening, council and neighbors. In 1973, the most widespread poisoning in Michigan began with a shipping dock error at the Michigan Chemical Corporation in St. Louis. In place of their trade name Nutramaster magnesium oxide, which is an animal feed supplement, a quantity of Firemaster fire retardant polybrominated biphenyls, or PBBs, was loaded on a truck headed for the Farm Bureau feed mill in Battle Creek. Through many successive individual errors, this highly toxic substance was introduced first into the dairy supply, then beef and poultry chains.
As this crisis evolved, nearly the entire population of Michigan became contaminated with PBBs. Especially vulnerable were children born from late 1973 and onward through the successive years. Due to the nature of our food chain and the common practices of the era, the contamination persisted for many years, and all who resided in Michigan, possibly except in the Western Upper Peninsula, from 1973 to 80 and onward, have PBBs within us. It is a forever chemical which is never expelled and has no acceptable level in our bodies. As this mass poisoning occurred, both Michigan Chemical Corporation and Michigan Farm Bureau refused to claim responsibility or publicly admit the extent of its spread. Complicit in concealing the dangers were the Michigan Department of Agriculture, Michigan Department of Health, and Michigan State University research departments. The damages done through this tragic accident have never been compensated in any substantive manner. So what can we take from this episode to apply to today's matter of mega-sized data center construction in our state? First, that the use of technology for the pursuit of growth and progress is laden with much potential danger, which needs thorough study and consideration. Secondly, that government, regulatory, and oversight agencies cannot always be relied upon to correctly address a crisis in a timely manner. Third, that the chief culprits of such contamination, whether accidental or knowingly, may escape the responsibility of their actions. Although I lived through the PBB poisoning of our state, I have little personal memory of it. However, I shudder at the possibility of another statewide contamination due to effects of outsized data centers. Negative health.
So, Ms. Scott, I need an address.
200 West 2nd Street, number 11, Royal Oak.
Royal Oak. Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is there a timer somewhere?
3 minutes. I've
Yeah,
got it
but
right here.
is it visual?
No.
Oh, okay. Hi, my name is Genevieve. Can I start my time over?
You sure can.
Okay. Hi, my name is Genevieve Peter Scott, and I'm running for the United States Senate to represent this great state. I'm here to model what representative government is. We are a constitutional republic. That means government answers to the people, not the other way around. And the individuals sitting behind me are here, your employers. You have been given your seats as public servants. They have elected you and they trusted you. You are sworn to serve and protect the public who put you there, not corporations, not lobbyists, and not special interests. Mayberry Mason is not for sale. Let me be clear. We believe in growth in America and in Michigan. We believe in American jobs, but growth without accountability is reckless. And this ordinance asks Mason families to accept permanent risk while private corporations lock in guaranteed profits. There are no caps on water or power usage, but there's also no binding requirement that developers pay 100% of the infrastructure upgrades they demand. There is corporate welfare. That's what it is, plain and simple. The taxpayers should never be forced to subsidize it. There's no decommissioning or cleanup bond, no shutdown plan, no guarantee that if a data center closes, fails, or walks away, Mason isn't left with contamination, abandoned infrastructure, or massive long-term costs. There's no fire department approved emergency or hazardous material plan. Even though hazardous materials are allowed, there are no enforceable safeguards for cooling system failures, power surges, or system breakdowns. Known risks in this industry. This is not responsible development. This is negligent and dangerous. And now let's talk about the water. The city's own memo admits that there's only 200,000 gallons per day in excess capacity, yet this ordinance provides no binding protection for Mason Aquifer. No safeguards for private wells, no long-term monitoring, and no testing requirements to protect families and farmers. Water is not just a resource, it's our future. Home values are put at risk, protective setbacks can be waived, noise limits are weakened, and families are offered zero compensation if the large investment, their home, is harmed, and it will be. More than 1,000 pages of public comments were submitted. Not one of the public comments or protections were added. That is you not listening. This is dismissive. And let's be very honest about what happened in this room. Just now, when Mason residents were asked if they supported the data centers, not one hand went up. Not one. This is the voice of the people. And in a constitutional republic, that voice matters. You don't override it. You don't explain it away. You don't ignore it. Protect our homes, protect our water, protect our future. That's what they're asking for you to do. Mason has spoken. Respect it or step aside. It's not for sale.
Announce Suzanne St. Charles is up 223 East South Street, and next is to Linda Benson.
I've come here and learned about what the data centers were about. I totally respect all these people with their information. I myself have learned just in the past week and a half, 2 weeks, getting something on my door and seeing a couple of signs on my street. That's it. I never got any other information to be able to talk intelligently like these respectable people have. And the information I have is the same things that they have said. And I just, in my heart, I hope that you will listen to us and see what these data centers can do and can ruin our city. Thank you.
Linda Benson, 1437 Plains Road, Leslie.
Please put a longer moratorium in place to make an ordinance to match 2026 knowledge. From January 6th to 20th, public input was taken online. Did the complete city council review all the input? On February 2nd, ordinance shows January 5th last update, so no new updates online. January 30, Wolverine Water Resource Study, 20-year plan says, with no new wells, treatment capacity capped at 1.5 million gallons per day, court order commitment to Vevay Township remains unchanged, and population grows to 10,300. Their opinion would be there's only 200,000 gallons per day of excess water capacity for the city's portable water system. New Albany, Ohio, large-scale data center uses 500,000 a day. That's 2.5 times as much as our estimate available. Your FAQ, C3C and E9. The city is evaluating to require all on-site generators to be certified to Tier 4 emission standards to reduce particulate emissions. This needs to be in the ordinance. Michigan, House Bill 4906 and Senate Bill 237 for data center incentives. Number 8, practices to mitigate negative environmental impacts for power, energy efficiency, and water. These should be in the Mason ordinance for a data center that does not want to get the Michigan incentives. June of 2025, Des Moines, Iowa, April 24th to March 25. Microsoft used 2.1 million gallons per day of water. Microsoft said that beginning in August of 24, all of our new data center designs begin using zero water cooling technology. October 25, New Albany, Ohio. New data centers implementing technologies designed for zero water usage and cooling. For the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission is focusing on Ohio's water supply. The new meta build is listed as having waterless systems and on-site power. In 23, data centers use 4.4% of the nation's electricities. Federal estimates say by 28, that'll double or triple. To ease grid demands, some companies are moving to generating their own electricity. Matches January 26, where Trump said data centers need to create their own power. Noise ordinance, E10A. If the pre-development noise level exceeds a 65 decibel standard, the post-development level will be equal to the pre-development baseline. Since the developer is not responsible for reducing existing ambient noise. On a blank land, there should be no noise. Appears to be a legal loophole that they don't have to adhere to 65 decibels. Height, industry standard server rooms are 8.5 feet tall. 45 feet height of a building would allow for 5 floors of servers. AI says many are low-rise 1 to 3 stories. Please add 2026 industry standards to the Ordinance 266 for water, electricity, heat, noise, etc. Even a book author gets edited before publishing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak?
You wanna go first? Want me to go? All right. Can you hear me? No, you can't. You might want to fix this for this one. It's not on. Can you hear me? Do I have to swallow it? Okay, good, good. Glad you're listening this time. My name is Anthony Hudson. I am moving to 100 North Capitol Avenue, if you want to write that down. I am a gubernatorial candidate, and you clearly did not listen to me last time I was in this room.
Excuse me, Mr. Hudson.
Yeah,
What city?
Lansing.
Lansing, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's right down the street. Apparently, you guys never listen, and that's the problem. These people voted you into office so that you could be their voice in government. When you go against that voice, you commit what we call treason. The punishment for treason is public hanging, so I suggest you start listening. These data center projects, they're a gigantic corporate resource-sucking, community-wrecking nightmare, and I'm done pretending otherwise. These companies march in here acting like they're God's gift to progress, puffed up with executives in shiny shoes, waving around buzzwords like innovation and investment, thinking we're dumb enough to swallow it. Screw that. They don't want to help. They don't want to grow the community. They just want to strip mine it, drain it dry, plug in their massive metal box full of servers, and flip us the bird as they walk back to their private jets. That's what it looks like. Are you paying attention? Okay, good. Are we supposed to sit back here and smile? Are we supposed to clap? Are we supposed to be grateful that they're here to jack up our power usage, guzzle our resources, and leave us with the tab? Hell no, we're not. These corporations treat communities like disposable doormats, somewhere to dump their noise, their heat, their waste, their ridiculous energy demands, and then walk out richer than ever. They don't care who gets steamrolled. They don't care whose bills get skyrocketed, and they don't give a damn whose quality of life goes to shit. And guess what? I'm not going to play nice anymore. Not now, not ever. So let me spell it out in a language even a boardroom full of overpaid tech clowns can understand. Take your damn data centers and shove them. We don't want them. We're not impressed by them. And we're sure as hell not going to sacrifice our communities for them. You want to drain our resources? Nope. You want to chew up our farmland like a buffet? Not happening. You want to pretend a couple temporary construction jobs is going to make up for the giant mess you leave behind? Get out of here with that garbage. We're drawing a line. Bold, loud, and rude. No data centers, no bullshit excuses, no corporate takeovers. If any company thinks they can bulldoze their way in, guess again. We're not rolling out the red carpet. We're slamming the door in your face. This isn't polite. This isn't diplomatic. And this isn't, oh, let's sit down and talk about it. This is the people behind me standing up saying, enough. Get lost.
we're done being used. And for the cowardly, corrupt mayor sitting in front of me, I am publicly demanding your immediate resignation because you, sir, are a traitor. Emerson Hyde, 1321 Hagedorn Road, Mason, here in Mason. You people on the council have all had a chance to listen to the people in back of me. These people are very intelligent, evidently a whole lot more intelligent than the board is. Yeah, well, we know that. But you guys did not want to put a moratorium in for whatever reason. Nobody knows. You put the moratorium in for 6 months to a year. You shove this thing down the road. Meanwhile, you vote this proposal that you got tonight, amendment that you got tonight, down until you have time to go through it and get the verbiage in it that you need to make it unattractive to the data centers. We should not have to destroy our town. That's what you're doing. That's what you're going to do. We should not have to destroy this town because of a few people up here that are so ignorant that can't put stuff together. I ask the board to vote it down tonight and put a moratorium in until you all have time to figure out the damage that it can actually do to this town and the surrounding area.
Hello, my name's Jason. I live at 1776 Boulevard. We're here to talk about tonight.
Jason,
Yeah,
what's your last name and what's your address?
my last name is Jason We the People, and my address is 1776 Boulevard, Freedom City.
Freedom City, what state?
Michigan.
So I know you're making all that up.
Yeah, 100%, because I don't have to tell you anything because it's my Fourth Amendment right. You know what that is? I think you need to learn the Fifth Amendment right. I don't care about your article. According to Article 6, Clause 2, you're Trump.
According to the rules of the city council, you have to give your name, your proper name and address, or you're not allowed to speak.
So do you think your bylaws trump my constitutional rights? Because that's the way it's looking here. You think your little bylaws here trump all these people's constitutional rights. Remove me so I can sue the dog shit out of the city. Do it, because I'll make sure you don't get no data center. Try me. 42 USC 1983, baby. That's my middle name. You want that name too? Now, back to this Fifth Amendment's takings clause. You can't use no takings clause, Einstein. Guess what? That's for public use. You understand that? You know what public use is? Sure ain't a data center. It's a park, an old folks home, something like that. It's the Fifth Amendment. It's really not that complicated. You should look into it. By the way, how does it feel sitting up there being a Benedict Arnold to all your people out here? Not one person supports this. How about this? Everybody up here has been asking who supports the data center. How about this? Who don't support the data center? Any other questions? Is there any other questions? Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder can see this one together. What remedy do you have for the forever chemicals? You don't got none. So now you're poisoning our land. Is there any foreign money involved in this? I'm pretty sure there is. Ain't Whitler in some hot water over that? Also, non-disclosure agreements. Bad news. I want everybody in this room who lives here to FOIA request every single non-disclosure agreement from any council member, mayor, anybody in this city. You need to FOIA who has one. You won't be able to see what's on it, but you'll be able to see who has one. And then at that time, we got a real conflict of interest, don't we? I think we would. Next thing, who are you having come in here that's putting these underground generators? Oh, you're not. You got these big old power lines going in right now that everybody's talking about. What's that? I mean, have we already made our minds up? Huh, seems that way. Well, anyway, here's your people. Have fun.
Tamara Bauer, 505 Riverwalk Drive.
Pull the mic down a little bit. Thanks.
Yeah, I am a City of Mason resident, City of Mason business owner. And as I said before, I'm not a public speaker. You know, it's upsetting to see how angry and upset people are. But you guys, we voted for you. Mr. Prenmore, Mr. DeRocha, Mr. Vercher, listen to the people. And I'm telling you, I go to work every day with City of Mason residents and all of our community. They don't want this. They don't like that you aren't listening to them. No one's saying that they're for this. You know, I work with AI every day at work. We can't get rid of it. Data centers are going to be around, but our whole state and our country are trying to figure it out right now. It can't be all on Mason right now to come up with the answers. We need the moratorium, a minimum of 6 months to a year. And we need to involve more experts, not the engineer or mayor. I know you're a smart man, but you don't know it all. I don't know everything about dentistry. If a patient comes in to see me and they've got a tooth hanging out that's infected, I can't just yank it out on them if they don't want it. That's malpractice. And what you guys are doing right now is, in my view, malpractice representing us. So I'm asking you personally to listen to the people and settle this down. It's ridiculous. And it's costing a lot of money to the city and us taxpayers to deal with this. And the personal tax have to end. So you can resolve this by setting the moratorium and allowing a community task force of educated people, a variety of people, engineers, zoning people, legal people, you know, various specialists, and get this fixed and do it right. It's not right yet. That's all I have to say. Oh, one more thing. I agree with the guy about saying our address. You know, I live alone personally. I don't like to stand up here and announce my address. You know, in this day and age, anyone can look this up. But somebody on the board up here tonight lives across the street from me. Should I stand up and announce your addresses? Should every one of you announce your addresses? I don't feel safe doing that, and I think it's wrong. We could put it on a paper. We don't have to announce it.
My name is Kaylin Ayers. I live on 379 North College Road, directly across the street from a potential site. My wife and I just moved in this past July. I work for an industrial chiller manufacturer. So I help design and build cooling equipment for all industries, whether it's food and beverage, automotive, aerospace, military, and even data centers. So I'm familiar with what a project of this size is going to look like. I understand the ordinances that get put in place can only get so strict, but there are plenty of reasonable asks that do not go beyond what is capable. I could lecture, or excuse me, many people's concerns include noise level, power consumption, and water usage. I could lecture everyone for the rest of the night on what our options are for cooling, but we don't have that time. I think some clarification on cooling requirements would go a long way in informing people. What cooling methods are to be utilized, whether it's a dry cooler, adiabatic cooler, or evaporative cooling tower. Is it truly a closed loop system or only partially? A lot of people get that term confused. They don't really know what that means, closed loop. Some are still vented to atmosphere. Some utilize spray pumps, which still constantly use water. So just some general clarification could go a long way. What concerns me is that we can get all these ordinances in place, but who will be the one responsible for actually monitoring the compliance? On top of that, what will the penalties be for violation? If it is just a fine, I think that's not much of a deterrent for a data center to uphold its standards. They would simply eat the costs every time. Something along the lines of a temporary shutdown of operations would be a good start. Mayor Whipple, I know a lot of people are coming at you hard. A lot of people are giving it to you. That's not what I'm here to do. But with that said, you have not made anyone here feel comfortable with your decision making. To say that you're to make decisions based on the best interests of those who voted for you is contradictory, because I do not think a data center is what anyone had in mind when voting for you. Your job is to look out for the best interests of everyone in Mason, not just those who voted for you. how is this justifiable to those who would be faced with selling their home, watching their property value decrease? All that is asked is for you to stand with everyone else here and display the same level of concern. Thank you.
Greg Elliott. I live at 3731 Josephine Lane in Mason. I want to continue a little bit with the issue of water. City's write-up addressing the community's concerns addresses wells. It states that wells going dry will be the responsibility of homeowners, as it is not legal to expect the company to repair them. Again, this is a partial truth. In the scenario being proposed, the city is setting the water use limits. So it would not be the city responsible legally for knowingly disrupting the water table. It would be the city. As a city that just paid $200,000 in a settlement for losing a lawsuit, I would think that you'd be eager to avoid another lawsuit. Yet when a city willingly zones land, allowing for water use quantities that will be detrimental to the property surrounding it, they are legally liable. And yes, a civil suit can be filed against them. This isn't a threat, but it's letting you know that we understand the legal ramifications of a city purposely allowing the water table to be drawn down to such levels, and making sure that you understand this too. We're asking the city to do the right thing and to quit wasting taxpayer money on lawsuits that can be avoided. No one wants to file a civil suit. Well, we won't stand by and let you ruin the water table for everyone around your dream data center. Again, not a threat, just a promise.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, evening, and council. My name is Maya Thomas, and I am 16. So, if possible, I would prefer not to state my address. Is that okay?
No.
No?
We need your address.
So, I'm 16 years old. I would rather not state my address. Okay, then I live at 123 Sesame Lane. I can give you my address personally in a written statement, but I would rather not state it in front of a crowd of a bunch of men and women I do not know. I can write it down and hand it to somebody right after I finish talking. Right now? Okay.
Hey, Claire, Chris Wolf does not allow people in Lansing to cite or bring their name up. We got to start a sheet of paper with our name, address, phone number, email, and everything. So the public don't hear
Sit down,
at city
please.
council
Sir,
in
please
Lansing.
sit down. It's not your time to speak.
Well,
Please
you
sit down
should
and be
allow
quiet.
these people to give their name and
Please sit
address out
down
loud to
and
the
be
public.
quiet. It is not your time to speak.
I'm just telling you what the rules are in Lansing.
I don't care what the rules are in Lansing.
Well, they
These are
should
the
not,
rules here.
they should not speak their address like people said their words.
Well, a
are in.
16-year-old.
Again, I'm not trying to cause a scene, sir. I just do not feel comfortable stating my address.
Would you please tell me if you live in the city or not?
I do. I live right in the Mason. I live right by the middle school. That is as close as I would like to state in front of everybody. I live right in town. And I am up here because I want to represent the kids that are not here today to speak up. I am 16. Like I said, I'm a high school student. I have lived in Mason my entire life. I was born, not technically born here, but I was raised here from the day that I was born. And I love this town. Like, I love everything about this town. I do feel very comfortable around this town. My address, it's a little iffy thing, but in general, I feel comfortable in the streets. I feel safe. This town is gorgeous, and it's very pretty, and it is very visually appealing to me personally. And I feel like it is a very non-touristy, but yet very old kind of town, if you understand what I'm saying. Like, all the buildings feel so historical, and I feel that a data center just completely strips Mason of its historical aspect. It is so gorgeous and so historical, and a data center, it's just destroying what we have. And then I would like to speak to all of the teenagers, and I understand that I might get hated at school for this. AI is ruining a lot of things. I mean, and I would like to speak on education. The education test scores have gone down significantly since AI has become such a large issue. And AI, if you can prevent using it, especially you teenagers in high school and middle school, I know how large of a thing it is, and I know how helpful it is for you to use it in school. And It's easy. It's an escape. It does not help. If you want help on your essays and your research papers, then do the research. Find the books in the library. Go to the library. This data center, I don't see why these kids have to take the easy way out every time. I have talked about it. Even teachers, I've not yelled necessarily, but I have talked about my teacher to her specifically and said, hey, why would you use AI on this? This is something that you could have done in your time to help us students feel better educated. If you cannot take the time out of your job, what you're getting paid for, to do your own job, I don't see how you can help me feel better educated. And I do not see how all these students can feel better educated if they are not taking the time to learn. School is to learn, and I understand that school can be a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's there for us to learn. And if you don't want to take the time to learn, that's on you. But if you want to be like, acting like you're stupid, then that is completely your fault. I deem myself as an educated person, and I'm not trying to be mean and talk down on all the students. All I ask is that you try to take the time to, I don't know, even just one assignment, your next essay that you have to turn in, go and do your own research, talk with your own thoughts. Don't use AI at all. If I ever use AI, it is a simple, please describe this because I couldn't find it better in online. So that is my ask. And all of you too, I ask you all, if you Google something, you can put -AI at the end. It'll take away the AI overview. Take AI out of your lives, and that diminishes the root of the problem. Thank you.
My name is Gary Baird. I live at 275 Ives Road in the basket of deplorables that is Vive Township. As I say, my name is Gary Baird. I'm married to a Texas firecracker. Yeah. I moved to Lansing area in 1984 to go to work for General Motors, Oldsmobile at the time. And so, Mary, you and I have something in common. We both worked at General Motors. I was a mechanical engineer just like you. I was a little ahead of you. You were a GMI when I was starting my career at GM. I worked in product engineering my whole career there. I left the place when they moved all the engineering out, and so I worked on cooling systems like you did. There's a lot of different jobs I had, but that was one of my experiences. But so I worked on cooling system. But the thing is, I don't think any of those experiences give me any kind of expertise whatsoever to try and understand what a chiller system is, or they're completely different animals. You have other than your basic understanding of thermodynamics and heat transfer, which you would learn, in engineering curriculum, really have no expertise in these things. Anyway, so there's roughly 600 hyperscale data centers in the U.S. We have more hyperscale data centers in the U.S. than the rest of the world combined, and we're on track to put another 600 or 700 in over the next few years, and that's still going to keep us way ahead of the rest of the world combined. And the hyperscale data centers are going in to do AI. That's it. This is not for doing your Facebook page. It's not for serving web pages. Typical AI facility has electrical power ratings that start about 100 megawatts. Okay, that's where they start, and then they go up. So how much is 100 megawatts? You say. So I did the engineering calculation. I figured 75% of 100 megawatts continuously, 24/7, 365. That adds up to what did it come up to? I got to look up. I lost my notes. Anyway, bottom line is if you compare that to a typical home in Michigan that uses 650 kilowatt hours, in a month period of time, it's like 84,000 homes. That's kind of power 100,000 megawatt data center would use. So, and the city of Mason has what, 3,500 homes? That seems like a very disproportionate, like 24 times disproportionate amount of power to be used around here. Okay, 100 megawatt hyperscale data center requires a minimum of about 40 acres. This is something I found out using AI today, by the way. So only 40 acres is required to build one. And that is 70-foot tall buildings. And by the way, 70-foot tall is the thing because you can only get 2 floors in 70 foot. You gotta have, and they need all this extra space above it for cooling. I understand, guys, so I didn't get very far. All right, well, no.
Alex Hoffmeyer, 510 West Ash Street. My comments partially been addressed. You guys have a better placement of the mic and seem to be saying speak into the mic. But my question was, are you guys purposefully using noise cancellation tactics in City Hall for your videos online? Or are you just inexperienced when it comes to media production? So some Android users with a single speaker are experiencing silence when they try to watch public comments online. Seems super convenient to me that if you can't remove the comments, you can just make them silent. I studied media and information at Michigan State University. What's happening is that your microphone is stereo, if this is the same one, meaning it captures left and right audio. The microphone is placed off to the side like this. So when people are talking, it's creating a delay in the timing between the 2 signals, which creates noise cancellation. This is how noise canceling headphones work. It samples the audio and delays it by half a wavelength, creating zero-sum audio. If you guys, I think you guys could potentially get sued for making a public meeting inaccessible to a portion of the public with Androids or other mono devices. It is easily fixable. I'd potentially like to speak to whoever runs your media after this meeting. I feel like this violates something in the Open Meetings Act requirements. It's a pretty easy fix. You can just take the mono signal, double the left signal to the right signal, or just use a different microphone if you truly don't want people's comments to be silenced. If they need help, at my experience and degree should be sufficient. I've also uploaded shorts of public comments to YouTube under AV Wolf News to help spread our voices further than this room. I'll be fixing the audio issue there. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tonight, I have brought you a copy of the resolution. Versilla Hart, 12805 Berryville Road, Rives Junction, Michigan. You all should have a copy of what I'm going to discuss on my public comment. Tonight, I brought you a copy of the resolution 2023-40 and master plan pages, which show the M3 district of ordinance 266 does not follow the master plan. The resolution indicates that the Michigan Planning Enabling Act was being used for preparation of the master plan. When following the Planning Enabling Act, the Planning Commission failed to follow the Enabling Act because the master plan must be amended prior to authorizing a new M3 district for your ordinance 266. Because there is no M3 district within the master plan, which is the foundation of planning and zoning. This failure to provide this ordinance without having it in the master plan is irresponsible and reckless on the Planning Commission and of this council. This council needs to send the ordinance 266 back to the Planning Commission because there's no district within that plan to be followed. This can cause legal issues for the city of Mason. Resolution 2023-40 was adopted on September 18th of 23 by Council Member Predmore and seconded by DeRocha. Then roll call vote. Clark, DeRocha, Ferris, Predmore, Schaefer, and Whipple all approved the resolution 2023-40 for adoption in 23 City of Mason Master Plan for recommendation by the Planning Commission, which you have a copy of. Here are a few line items from that resolution. Development of the future land use plan is pivotal in accommodating development in an organized manner while retaining its unique characteristics and promoting economic development, which means M1 and M2 under employment is in your master plan. Those are on your page 3 of your packet. There is no M3 in that packet. The updated master plan is needed to address the document public health, safety, and welfare concerns with unmanaged growth and incompatible mixtures of land uses. A master plan is important to provide a sound basis for zoning, other related regulations, and community investments. That is all in your resolution. I would hope that this council members would vote for this resolution to take, or this ordinance to take a step, or the people that voted for this resolution to take a step back, send that ordinance back to the planning commission because the procedures have not been followed. At this point, what plan are you following? The city of Mason's master plan or Mr. Whipple's plan? Mr. Whipple, regarding your $50 million of money coming into the city, I must ask, since you have stated there is no application, then where is this dollar amount coming from? Thank you.
Greg Engel, 1192 Hagedorn Road, Mason. What's happened to our government? So this council is to operate as a republic, right? Which is to operate on behalf of the fine people here of the city of Mason, where they have actually entrusted to you the responsibility to act on their behalf, right? To uphold the rights, the values, the concerns of the constituents, of the people who have elected you and asked you to uphold their values in office, right? So week after week, there's been hundreds of people gathering here, voicing their concerns, voicing their opinions, saying that we don't want a data center, right? But nothing has changed, right? Everything has continued to go on, where it's a 5-2 vote every time, right? So you've said time and time again that township folk like myself and like several others here, you can turn a blind ear to, and you don't have to respond to because we didn't vote for you. Well, there you go, right? But you know full well that your decision, the decision of the council here in the city of Mason, doesn't just impact the people in the city of Mason. It impacts everybody with a Mason address, and even beyond that, right? So here's an idea, maybe a thought. Why don't we get rid of this whole idea of bringing this before the council and just put it back to the people's hands, right? Let this be a democratic vote. How about we just put it on a sheet of paper, a special election that says data center, yes or no, and let the people decide their own fate for what happens in our precious city that we all call home. Thank you.
I wasn't going to come up here. Daniel Gigante, 108 Monroe Street, Mason, Michigan. I wasn't going to come up here. First time coming up here to speak to you guys. Everybody behind me, they're saying the entire council. That's wrong. There's only 2 that are with us. The other 5, including the newbie, who conveniently got selected from Mr. Whipple.
Yes. Yep.
And it's sickening. It is extremely sickening to watch this. Just to let everybody behind me know, I'm running for council this year. I've been on the ballot 3 times. And I've heard so much crap on social media saying, oh, well, you even lost to Rita. Guess what? I don't care. But I promise you this, Mr. Whipple, and your other 4 cronies up here, you guys are out. If I can do anything about that, you're out of here. The manager is out of here. And we're going to try to figure out a way that the council does not vote the mayor. The people behind me vote the mayor. So guess what? Enjoy your time now because you guys are out.
Hi, my name's Tony Maurer. My address is 5035 Campus Hill Drive. That's in Okemos. So I'm here. I actually help out somebody I know you've heard from before, Tom Leonard. He's a candidate for governor.
Yes.
And I just wanted to tackle one thing that I know the board has in previous meetings talked about, and I'd like to clarify a few things. So I'd like to focus on energy rates. Almost everybody here, I believe, gets their energy from consumers.
Yes.
Consumers generates about 7 gigawatts of energy a year. They have a max capacity of generating about 7.2. Currently, right now in consumers' territory, there's 15 gigawatts worth of energy proposed from data centers. I'm sure that consumers does have some capacity to increase their output. I have no idea of any company that is able to increase their output that much without increasing rates on every single person in this room. And I know one other thing that I've heard the board talk about in previous meetings is that, well, we don't have to worry about that. The Michigan Public Service Commission is going to make sure that they don't increase our rates.
Joe.
I'm 23 years old. I'm not aware of any instance in the 23 years I've been alive where the Michigan Public Service Commission has failed to give the energy companies a rate increase. I have a bunch of petitions here. It is for a statewide 1-year moratorium on all data center development across the state. I would like to encourage members of this council to come grab one from me. I'd like to encourage everybody in this room to come grab one from me, because we need our state to stop all the corporate welfare to these data centers. And we need them to pump the brakes until we are able to hear how we can responsibly develop these data centers without creating all of the negative impacts you, the board, have heard from the people tonight, and make sure that we protect our citizens before we protect companies. Thank you.
Suzette Darnell Holloway, 999 West Dansville Road. So people don't want a data center. What I hear from the council is we need an ordinance to protect. I don't think any of us are against that if it truly does what it's supposed to do. I hear the state has control over this. I hear consumers has control over that. I'm not disagreeing with that. Again, what can this city council do to protect us as much as possible from any of the outside things we don't have control over? So I've been coming here. I went to Lansing's informative a couple Saturdays ago, listened to Deep Green talk about what they're doing. I went to the ICT informational in Okemos to hear about the transformers, the actual Grand Ledge to Fowlerville, and what they're doing and how they try to do reclamation. I've looked at some of the state statutes because I hear you say, we legally can't do this. So I'm trying to get informed, and it still continues to boggle my mind on how nothing changes from everything that you've heard. I am understanding more about the other side, but it still doesn't make me comfortable. And 200 feet from 150, when everything says it should be 1,000 feet setback, makes me nuts. Guess what? I AI'd today too. Special use permits everywhere from AI. I just don't understand. And again, we know we need to do something to protect our community. And I wish you guys would just listen and take a step back and get a little more education and be more comfortable And I guess if you can answer a question during your member report, what is it that each one of you thinks about this as being a good ordinance and a good amendment and truly good for the community? So, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, move along to our agenda. You don't? Okay. Sure. So anyone want to make a motion on accept calendar? That's right. Yes.
May I request a 5-minute recess?
You sure can. You do 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Is that a video camera or just regular camera?
Doing mine?
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes videos. Those things are the best.
Yeah, no kidding.
I work for one of the local stations, and they give us those instead of
What
those
station
big
do you
ones.
work
Fox
for?
47.
Oh, it's just like a Mason
Local,
station?
yeah. It's mid-Michigan, so we cover like all the different suburbs. And
Here, Anthony, I'm writing cards on it. So put your hand out here, but I get you an interview with him.
Yeah. Hey, sweet.
Plus,
You have your own news network? Nice.
Oh, yeah, dude, it's killer. You can
That's
go
sick.
online and be like, the vaccine, the government's corrupt.
You do stuff like
Everything,
yeah.
everything you can't see
Yeah.
on YouTube,
And you say it.
WTPN.
Okay.
We're soft.
Nice.
And if we go to court, that's the only bylaw we're on it with everything, because it's all we do. You go there, profile everything, it gives you a press pass, because all a press pass is, it's first amendment protected.
Right,
too.
yeah.
All a press pass is a little corporation, and people go, oh, God, I'm a moron, I guess it's a press pass. So our press pass is
That's super
it's
funny.
digital too. So
That's
we can-
hilarious. Yeah, but those cameras, those are great. They gave us those, and we still have those big ones that News 10 has, but I prefer the little thing because I don't have a camera guy. It's just me. I'm the one
Right,
stop.
right,
You
one
know.
show, yeah.
So I'm like, I'd much rather have a little thing that's easier to utilize than that giant thing.
Right, I can also get you a meeting with the supervisor from Mundy Township, which ain't too far from here, probably about an hour maybe max, probably 45 minutes. They have a
Oh, do they really? 55.
Billion. Oh, dude, it's using, I think it's 47 million gallons per day.
That's crazy.
That's a battery plant slash computer chip manufacturer.
Yeah.
This is just a data center. This
Right.
is baby shit compared to, you know what I mean?
Crazy though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna run to the bathroom.
Yeah, for sure. It's got my cell on there too, so just whatever. I'll hook you up with whoever I can. Steve Connor, too, state rep. I love to do Lansing. She's over here having a meltdown. She said she's over here having a meltdown. That's awesome. Right?
So that's what we've seen in these meetings. So I just wanted to read just a recap on things and let you know what's going on this 5-minute break. So I'm going to flip this around. I guess I'm the reporter here. So what we've been noticing in the YouTube videos is you can't hear. Like you can't hear, and it's they have noticed that what happens is when they can't, like on their YouTube video. So I just said, you know what? I'll be the news. I'll come in here. I'll take them myself. 'Cause you
First
can't have
Amendment.
My videos, and it's my First Amendment. As this gentleman right here, let me know. These are constitutionalists. So yeah, so I'm gonna flip this around, and here we go.
Hey,
So I
look,
think it's
Merry
gonna start
Christmas.
here.
I
Oh,
keep them on me.
yeah, and I was just given this. Yeah, so you sign your petition.
Does anybody want to make a motion on the consent calendar?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move we approve the consent calendar as presented.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent calendar as presented. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Consent calendar is approved 7-0. Next item of business is receipt of the report on ordinance 266, formal comment period and staff recommendations as required by resolution 2601. The manager's asking for a motion to receive this, so would somebody like to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion for the receipt of the report on ordinance 266, formal comment period and staff recommendations as required by resolution 2026-01.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to receive the report on ordinance 266, formal comment period and staff recommendations as required by resolution 2026-01. City manager, did you want to talk about this at all?
Mr. Mayor, I could just give a high level of what this item is and what the process we went through to evaluate them. So per resolution 2026-01, council directed staff to create a formal comment process. We did that. We advertised that. We received 114 public comments during that time. As required by that resolution, we provided those comments in whole on January 23rd to all the council members. We also posted that on the website at that date so that the public could review comments as well. In between that time and February 2nd, Staff has thoroughly reviewed all of the comments more than once. And we tried to put together a summary of the specific recommendations, and if there wasn't, we had to generalize what the recommendation was. You'll see that in the attached sheet. I would, as I've mentioned many times in this and the other, you still should refer to the full public comment to get the full depth of what that recommendation was. But we also expanded the FAQ considerably, including some recommendations for amendments that we provided to council a week ago. That was also made public at that time. Those recommendations are ones that we know Mayor Whipple and Councilmember Bircher were also proposing amendments based on those comments. After discussing that with them and they combined those comments or recommendations, we agreed with the ones that they did, and we recommended a few more that they added in. So the ones that are being presented in the next action item are ones that we recommend as staff as well.
Any discussion? Oops, turn that on. Any discussion on the motion to receive the ordinance 266 formal comment period report?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I was just wondering from the city manager, did you have a count on resident and non-resident?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yes, you'll see that at the bottom of the staff report. There were 114 comments submitted. 104 were from unique submitters, and the reason I want to clarify that, it's not necessarily that people just duplicated comments. They couldn't maybe attach all the attachments they wanted to, so they submitted another submission, or they had some corrected information, some provided additional comments to correct previous comments. So 104 were unique submitters. Of those, 51 were City of Mason addresses and 53 were not.
Any other discussion on the motion to receive the report on 266, ordinance 266 formal comment period? All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no. Report is received by a vote of 7-0. Let's see here. Next item on the agenda is taking up the second reading and adoption of ordinance 266, which was deferred from the January 5th meeting. So that ordinance is now back before us for second reading and adoption. In the AR, there's a request for consideration of some amendments. Does anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion on ordinance 266, take up second reading and adoption of ordinance 266 to amend the city code of the City of Mason by adding section 94-153 to chapter 94 zoning, creating a new technology innovation M3 zoning district, and updating various sections within the code to allow for the new M3 zoning district deferred from the January 5th, 2026 to this meeting, and consider proposed amendments by Whipple and Bircher.
So, okay, so I guess I wasn't as clear as I need to be. We don't need to move the second reading and adoption. That's already before us because it was deferred from before. So the only motion that's necessary right now is if there's any motion to amend the ordinance.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to amend ordinance 266 to move, delete, and insert language in various sections as highlighted in the AR.
Second.
Moved and seconded to amend ordinance 266 to move, delete, and insert language in various sections as highlighted in the AR. Before we take up discussion, I guess I'm gonna try to walk through some of these proposed changes and give some insight into what went into this. The first change is some clarification on the intent and purpose of ordinance number section 94-153 in ordinance 266. It just expands upon and clarifies the intent and purpose of the ordinance. It also changes the uses permitted by right to, it changes the description of that to, again, give some more context as to what sorts of uses by right would be allowed. In 94-153E, a number of items were added that would be required at site plan submittal. These are items that planning commission or the zoning director could require, but is not required to in other developments. In this development, they would be required to include expected water use amount and identification of expected contents of wastewater that could impact the city wastewater treatment process. expected electricity use and documentation of the commitment from the electricity provider, that sufficient supply is available, and that such supply will not impact electricity users consistent with state law. Include an environmental impact statement detailing potential impacts to air quality, wildlife, and water resources, including cooling water, wastewater, surface water, and groundwater, and include mitigating actions to address potential impacts. That no site plan will be approved, or a development agreement or utility agreement executed unless the city is determined based on completed studies and submitted documentation that sufficient city utility capacity exists under conservative long-term operating assumptions. And the planning commission will be required to hold a public hearing prior to approval of a preliminary site plan. That's not required for this type of a situation, but we would be requiring that public hearing. In 94-153F and 94-153G1, we'd be reducing the minimum size for property in the M3 district from 300 acres to 50 acres and eliminate the minimum parcel size because it would no longer be necessary. In 94-153H, the exceptions allowed in city code for structural appurtenances to exceed the maximum building height would not be allowed. So the maximum building height would be a flat 70 feet no matter what. In 94-153L2, A, B, and C, that's been restructured to add a 200-foot setback from property that is adjacent and abutting the district that is zoned residential or used residentially. There's a change just in clarification for the access point screening in 94-153L2D4 that would more clearly address the location of where additional screening for an access point would be. And then in 94-153L3, construction site setup and non-street, non-residential setback and screening. Really, there's just a change there to clarify the berm landscaping, or excuse me, clarify the landscaping instructions or standards and how they relate to the berm standards for residential abutting property. And also we moved a section just to put it into a better place in reading the ordinance. We're proposing deleting 153L6, which is a section that defined adjacent parcel outside of the district that was a residential use if it was across the street or there was an intervening street. That's no longer necessary because of other changes to the ordinance that would have been put in originally because there were some points that were as clear as far as what was adjacent and what is not, but we've changed language to address that. In 94-153-02, we're requiring all diesel generators shall be factory certified to meet minimum Tier 4 final emissions regulations as established by the EPA. And in the event that the EPA issues more stringent regulations, that any generators purchased after that time, after that regulation goes into place, if the generators are available in the commercial market, that they be required to meet the new standard, and that diesel fuel must meet the standards of the EPA. In 153.03, water and sewer utilities, kind of restructured this section because we deleted something that made it not grammatically the way we wanted it. But we also added to the utility the utilities agreement that the minimum monthly payment for water and sanitary sewer service would be required, and penalties for non-compliance with the agreement. Also a section that all rates, water and wastewater charges would be determined based on a city council approved rate study, which is how we do it now, and shall not be less than the charges applicable to residential users. And that failure to comply with the utilities agreement will constitute both a contractual breach and a violation of this section. It wasn't clear the way it was written that it would not only be a contractual breach because the utilities agreement is a contract, but that also it would be a violation of this section. And we removed this section that talked about a bond for decommissioning because it's been determined by our legal counsel that we really don't have any way to do that because we are not involving incentives in any situation that we can anticipate with this. And that would be the only vehicle by which the city could really deal with decommissioning. Where we think we can deal with that, if it's legally allowed, is in the utility or development agreements, which I think we have a section that's added here at the end that tells that. In 94, 153 Q2, changing the noise standard to require an average noise level over a 24-hour period, which is industry standard for how noise in an outdoor environmental setting is measured. And to also reduce the limit on property that abuts residences and the district to 55 decibels from 65 decibels, and to require that the LAEQ measurement methodology is used, which is one of the industry standards. We also specify that the generators can only exceed the standard noise levels up to the 80 decibels during testing or emergency disruption. Okay, and then clarified a few things later that added metrics as part of the standards that would be selected for doing the noise study, and that the city engineer would approve in advance the selection of any contractor and the standard that would be used. Similar change in Q4 for vibration, where the city engineer in advance would approve whoever does a study for vibration. In 153R, the development agreement, we added that nothing in this section shall preclude the city from requiring surety bonds or other financial assurances where legally permitted. That's what I was talking about earlier about the decommissioning bonds. And finally, in 153S, we added a section called signs and just limit the size of wall signs to a maximum of 800 square feet. Is there any discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 266?
Mr. Mayor, I have one quick question or clarification. You talked about emergency disruption, but the sentence continues, an emergency disruption in supply from the normal electricity supplier.
Right.
Not just any old disruption.
Yes. Any other discussion on the motion to amend?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion at this time for a 180-day moratorium on this ordinance.
There we go. There we go. There's one. There's one that understands the Constitution and our republic.
Unfortunately, that's not in order. We have before us
What?
second reading and adoption of the ordinance. That would not be a incidental
You need a
motion
motion.
to this ordinance. Because the moratorium that we have in existence already is on data center uses. So if we wanted to do a moratorium, it would have to be a separate motion outside of this.
Development uses is different.
But your motion was a moratorium on data centers, correct? Well, the topic right now is an ordinance approval that is not related to a moratorium. The moratorium be separate. You could bring it up under new business, I guess.
After they approve.
After it's approved.
After they approve it.
Right.
Any other
Oh, it
discussion
sounds
on the
fun.
motion to
Joker.
amend?
I think we
Yes,
did this at the planning.
A few amendments that I'd like to see in this ordinance.
Well, can we vote on this set of amendments and then you can bring up yours?
Oh, no.
We can do that too. I mean, we have one motion at a time. We have a motion to amend, and this is a particular amendment, and then you can make a
Oh,
motion.
Steve
to
Carr,
amend
you
yours.
gotta get this fucker.
Any other discussion on this motion to amend?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I think that these amendments, as drafted, address many of the concerns that I read within the public comments that I've received. Especially about diesel generators and the particulate matter generated from them, and we require the strictest standards the EPA has in place, and also make accountants for future more stringent regulations on that. We've adjusted noise levels to use industry standard
You've gave them a blueprint.
measurement, which I believe is superior to what we had there before. We have things addressed in there to address failure to comply with water and sanitary sewer utility agreements. Minimum setbacks have been addressed. We have things in the amendments that, address the rates
paid
that
for.
anyone within this district would be applicable to, wouldn't be less than current city residents pay, which I think is important. Also in the planning and approval process, that anyone that wants to zone for this must meet must have sufficient electricity as stated in a use agreement through the electricity provider. Sorry, I'm just reading through my notes. And that no site plan shall be approved, nor any development agreement shall be executed unless, we understand, based on a conservative long-term operating assumption, based on full build-out, usage, and reasonable contingency factors and expected operational lifespan, that we're well within that for it to be approved. So I think these amendments as proposed go a long way to address a lot of the concerns that I read through. The public comment that the citizens provided, so I support the amendments as written.
Summary that the staff provided.
Any other discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 266 as presented in the AR? Nope, we gotta vote on this one first. All those in favor say yes. Yes. Opposed, no?